Hey guys, welcome back to the Glory Living channel. My name's Hannah. Today we are going to be following up on a video that we actually started months ago back in the fall when we planted garlic. And today I'm going to show you how to harvest that and how to properly harvest it. That way you can store and have it all throughout the winter and even save some bulbs next year for planting. All right guys, let's go check it out. Garlic is one of those amazing crops you can grow in your garden. It is so good for cooking in dishes and it is so good for your health. I love garlic. Our family uses garlic a lot in cooking and it is something great to have in your garden. It does take a little bit of time, a little bit of patience because it is something you plant in the fall and harvest in the summer. Garlic is similar to how onions, potatoes, winter squash, even fruit can be, that if it can be stored throughout the winter to be used, but it has to be harvested correctly and stored correctly in order to do that. Now there are tons of ways of storing it, but I want to show you today, and I'll mention some other ways later, how to get it out of the ground, how to harvest it and store it so that you don't have to do anything to it. If you want to braid it, you can, but you can just store it and leave the cloves intact and have it all throughout the winter to use for your cooking. Let's start with how to know when to harvest your garlic. Now, we're harvesting it in a different time than we normally would. We usually find that around June, July is when you can harvest it, sometimes even mid-July into August, depending on your climate, depending where you live, is when you're going to harvest it. But the sign is that most of the plant has turned brown. Now, I think this happened a little faster this year because it got really hot the past few weeks, but it is ready to come out of the ground. Normally you'd have it a little bit green and mostly brown, and that's when you're gonna start pulling it out of the ground. This is mostly brown at this point. There's some that are still a little bit green. I'll show you, and we're gonna pull them out and see what they look like. Okay, so we're about to pull our garlic out of the ground, and when we do this, we're going to want to lay it on something like this. Now, this is, I made this a couple months ago. I used this for sifting out potting soil so that I could start seeds in it and transplant some of my seedlings. So if you want to check out that video, it's super simple, super easy. I'll show you how. But this doubles as also a harvesting rack. I can dry seeds on this. I can dry garlic, onions, things like that to cure, that way for storage. The beans, like I said, for beans, you could lay beans out here if you want to save their seeds until they dry. You could also store onions and garlic on here for a few weeks to cure, and that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to have something like this. I have one of my own, and my family has one as well that I'm just going to use and show you today. We're going to lay our garlic out on here, and we're going to get it into a shady spot. I'll give you more details about that in a second. Let's get these pulled out of the ground and onto the screen. Look at this first one pulled out. It is absolutely huge. It's absolutely huge. We're going to store this. One other tip is you don't want to wait too long to pull them out of the ground. Otherwise, the cloves will begin to separate from themselves from the head and it won't store as well. So you don't want to leave them in the ground too long. I think we're going to be okay. We'll get these dried out and cured, and I think they should be great. Okay, so I want to show you, I've been pulling these out. One that's been in too long. These must be right on the edge. If you can see that clove pulling itself away from the head, this is one to use first because it won't store well. It's storing out. I mean, this clove is pretty much taking its own skin off. So that's okay. We've got a lot of other ones and some really big ones in here too. So that's good. We're going to keep pulling these out, get them laid out on our mesh, and then we're going to put them in a shaded area. All right, so we have got our garlic pulled and it is sitting on our screen to cure for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now, after the 2 to 3 weeks, we're gonna check them, see how they're doing. If they are starting to become hard and brittle, the roots are hard and brittle, just gonna rub the roots right off of the end of the garlic. Now, at this point, you can braid the garlic with the shoots, or you can cut off those shoots a few inches from the top of the garlic and store them that way. Now, if you do want to store these long-term for the winter, they are going to need to cure for 2 to 3 weeks in a shaded area with good airflow. Somewhere like a shed, a back screened-in porch. You can put them really anywhere shaded, but you do want to make sure that you keep them out of the rain. If it is going to rain and you're just keeping them in a shaded spot of your yard, you're going to want to bring them inside. But a good shed is good as long as you have good airflow for them. That way they can cure, dry out, and in a couple of weeks you'll be able to check on them, clean off the rest of the dirt, take off the roots, and do whatever you want with the stems, whether that's braid them or trim them. So 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to check on them. Now, if you do not want to store them whole, there are a few other things you can do. You can get all those cloves, take the skins off of them, cut them up and dehydrate them, You will have little chunks of garlic that you can use, or you can also take those chunks, blend them, grind them, and have garlic powder. Additionally, one thing my family also likes to do is to take the skins off them, mince up the garlic, put it flat in a gallon baggie, and freeze it in a thin, flat bag. You can also use it for fresh, not cooking, even if it's frozen. You just take it out and let it thaw out. I've used it in garlic knots where I've taken it and let it thaw out in the oil while I was making my dough, and the garlic worked great. So whether you just want to leave these to dry and store them in a nice cool place throughout the winter in braids, or whether you cut them off and have them in mesh bags, or however you want to store your garlic, you can do it that way and have more work in the future, whether you're just, taking the skins off and mincing them like you normally would buying them from the store. Or you can do a lot of work ahead of time and dehydrate your garlic and make it into powder, or just have small dehydrated chunks that you can fry up. Or you can even go as far as mincing them and freezing them. All these ways work great. It's your preference. The thing that's nice about doing that work ahead of time is that later you don't have to mince garlic, which is something I just kind of hate to do when I'm cooking and trying to do other things. It's just one of those things in the kitchen I don't enjoy doing. So doing it all at once kind of is a nice way to do it. But it's up to your preferences, and it all depends on how you want to use your garlic, or do a mix of all those options. In 2 to 3 weeks, we will have garlic that is ready to store once it cures in a shaded area with this good airflow. Dries out and is good. Remember, any of the cloves that have had cloves separate from the head, those are not going to last as long. You're going to want to think about using those first. Once the 2 or 3 weeks are up, you can just rub off those dry roots, rub off any other additional dry, loose dirt that's on there, and they are ready to store, whether you braid them, whether you mince them, whatever you're gonna do to store your garlic. There's many ways of going about it. It's super easy to cure and a great crop to be able to keep throughout the winter and use. And as long as you have the patience to grow it from the fall to the summer, you're gonna be able to really enjoy a lot of garlic for the whole year, right from your garden, which is just awesome. Guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope it was helpful to you. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it with your friends or your family. That's really a great way to support me in creating this content for you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see you around for future videos. Thank you guys so much, and until next time, we'll see you soon.